This is just a test. As I said many takes before this, you see the screen reflecting me, so I'm basically reading it out loud as like a practice. Go ahead, laugh. I don't give a damn if I sound insane or furious, but if you do, you're only proving what I feel about you. You think I waste my time and probably should keep my mouth shut and respect others? Right? Well, I say, why should I respect you if I can't give any respect in return? Plus, not saying what I feel would make me look like a wussy pussy, especially from someone who both acknowledges what I'm saying but also doesn't care at the same time. I've got a question for you, Mr. Douglas Darian Walker. Why can't you just apologize for any of those grievances that were given to your former employees? You had the chance to do that, to take responsibility for your actions, but instead you just scampered off and ran away like a weasel. And to make matters worse, you let your terrible boss Mike Machado and your horrible brother Rob give a half-ass apology that said, "We sincerely regret you felt that way," and another that's our response that tries to debunk those claims in the document when you unfortunately, unintentionally, actually proven some of those points. That statement in that first response feels like the equivalent of the line, "It couldn't have been us, too bad," which is what John Walsh said to describe one of the criminals who wrote a similar letter to a person that he murdered. You're so hypocritical, and you constantly keep forgetting it, do you? Especially you keep using the what the chart says when you often said it gets views as an excuse for your skipless reviews, or complain about executive meddling, but you ended up doing the same thing, like agreeing to Mike's decisions to do a failed game show that clearly no one except him had any interest at all. And you're one of the pillars of reviewing in the first place. Why do you keep having these decisions when you should know better after 12 years? Or how you basically contradict a statement that basically fits your show on saying on The Simpsons, everyone wishes the show would be over because everyone would remember it as a great show. It would be hard to look back on something that's still going on, so why can't you do the same thing? Or how on your top 11 South Park episodes where you said, if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Which is funny, since that's technically the real reason you brought the show back, since you can't do anything else no matter how you try. You're just a one-trick pony. You only get famous for one thing, and even though you try to do anything else, you'll never be remembered other than just for that one thing. And you know what's funny? How with most reviewers, they say that the movies is a person makes is a reflection of themselves on who they made it, for the most part. And it's somewhat ironic that you supposedly know filmmaking, but yet you take the wrong direction, since I think those bad films you review might have desensitized you to the point where you can't even emulate good filmmaking, especially since you keep ignoring advice from your crew members and only gave in to the male members due to favoritism and social rankings on the site. Not to mention, your style of reviewing is really starting to get outdated and just wants to die, because reviewing isn't supposed to be like that anymore, where we go over the top ranting and basically recap everything and only have a small portion review at the end. And if you want to make a point, you need to do it well. Do not use dumb jokes as an excuse, because they do not always equal criticism. It's funny that you started the "where's the fair use" trend, since it shows that you clearly have no idea what it means to be transformative or how to use it, because you basically are just recapping everything in the review as a replacement for people to see the video. And I don't blame them, because most people nowadays probably don't have the time to sit down and watch a whole movie due to the COVID pandemic, because they have lack of motivation to do so. Plus, do you really love filmmaking? And I don't mean the ironic, sarcastic, detached, and snarkily arrogant way. And sure, we nerds and geeks like to complain over simple, trivial things. But if we're gonna make ourselves with that kind of persona, it won't age well, and will make you look like a colossal jerk in the end. Use passion to drive your point, instead of stroking your ego to drive your point. And as for you, Brad Jones, Malcolm Ray, and Tamara Chambers, you had a chance too to redeem yourselves, but you had to stick to them because they're your so-called friends, which, in my opinion, is just sickening, since you enable their behavior and don't care to bother to listen to the people who want the company to improve. You just shrug them off like it was nothing, like you just don't understand the severity of these grievances and would rather be just an idiot that uses the, "oh, I didn't have that experience like that with them, therefore it can't be true," or the art versus art shtick, which shouldn't apply to them, since unfortunately sometimes the art is equal to the artist in both fiction and in real life. Plus, any criticism that's levied on any of the film that he obviously poorly researches these days can just be quickly made the other way around. Just like the "are you sure it's not the other way around" argument. Like he's so stupid to just re-review a movie that he's already done himself, just because of how much of a suck-up he is to Michaud for choosing his topics for him, and never thinking that, is it really needed for him to do a re-review unless you want to change your mind on something? And probably he may have done that, but sadly, I'm not too convinced by it. I don't get how you feel that you're the victims and we're the bullies. Do you not see that all the things you said and do are hurtful to others? Can you just stop for maybe 1 minute, just 1 minute, on what people are telling you? Sure, some of them are harassing insults, I'll give you that. And I know it sucks to be told that we're wrong. We all have that problem. Nobody likes to be told what to think or do. Still, if people are telling you the same thing, that is a general sentiment, and it's just pleading you to apologize and make up for your mistakes. You're probably that kind of people who think those peaceful protesters are the problem. They aren't. They're responding to injustice because they feel someone in higher power has acted in a non-transparent way and has done things that hurt people both physically and mentally. And we're all calling them out on it. It's not like we're judging you for what you do in your daily life, because admittedly that is just trivial and just a bit, well, subjective. But we are judging you on what you've done in your company that has ramifications and effects on other people. What else are we gonna do but ask you over and over on your social media pages? And if all that bullying doesn't hurt you, how come we have to be blocked on Twitter? The problem is people don't want to talk to you. You just wall yourself away from any opportunities and criticisms. All we want is just some transparency, responsibility, and honesty, and some lowering of your egos. You have the power to do it, but what do? You do nothing that makes a positive change. To just continue to cower and lie. Why can't you just compromise? And lastly, to the fans who contribute to this, I'm sorry, but you should be ashamed of yourselves. That the thing that you continue to put with these con artists is just sickening. And yet you try to defend them by saying they were great people when we met them and they were nice and supporting charities they sponsor. But don't you even stop to remember that they nearly scammed all of your money for that Indiegogo project, for that stupid game show that nobody else wanted except Mashad. And also, they almost got investigated for possible money laundering for where that money was actually spent on, because clearly, if you looked at the final product, that wasn't worth $90,000. And they're just so incompetent with how they manage their film anniversaries. Despite what advice they told them, they just laugh it off and shrug it off and only listen to male workers that are almost as popular as the walkers, both due to favoritism and basically sexism. And lastly, he and Mike knowingly kept two sexual deviants, Mike Ellis and Justin Carmichael, who sexually harassed their co-workers, and one, being Carmichael, who raped two of their fans. They were informed about these developments but didn't care to listen and only fired him after a year later, which is a bit suspicious because he should have reported him to the police if they actually was doing something that was dirty. They were even thinking about rehiring the rapist on their show because he was one of their most popular reviewers. But since the sponsors that support them and anybody who actually worked in film and television or video games that praise him didn't bother to even do a proper background investigation, can sometimes see if these people are even trustworthy and worth of your time. But you didn't. You had to make yourselves look so oblivious and so naive to see what's actually happening. And instead, you just buy and listen to anything that these clowns say. People, I'm sincerely that you're all happy this happened, because you continue to show yourselves why I have little faith in humanity. We may have a new president being Biden, and he may be doing good things, but sadly, the bad feelings of Trump are still in my mind, and unfortunately I can't let it go until he gets some just desserts. Sorry to go on a tangent, but it's sort of similar to this. Because all you people refuse to listen to reason, because you just don't like to be criticized or think of what to be told, and thus you let history repeat themselves. You just ignore people who use the information to back up their claims, but yet listen to people who deny it and use out of context information to make themselves look better. Still, it backfired since they didn't care to pay attention to any of their prior actions or misdeeds. And before you say anything, I admit I can be hypocritical, and even I can be arrogant sometimes, as anybody can tend to be. Hell, I can be hyperbolic and say some things that a frickin' fascist or dictator would say when I'm pretty angry, because I'm just so insecure. But at least I am willing to admit it. Also, if you peer pressure me like I'm doing to you. Unfortunately, you don't see that. Who expects everybody to just go blindly along like what he says, just like you're leading sheep off of a cliff, and just don't bother to listen to people who want to improve, and just dismiss them thinking that they're already okay. This is why almost nothing changes in the world, and this is why a lot of people think they don't need to be challenged, and incorrectly think that the complainers are the problem, done by people who are vague and manipulative while making themselves look like the good guy to people who don't care to look. That is incredibly dangerous, and those kinds of people, since they're super sneaky about it and rely on people who are too dull-witted or lazy to do a background check and just assume the cancel culture, witch hunt, fake news, yo, journalism bullcrap. It's like anti-social rights. Like I said, I can be like this. I feel tempted to do it, but I avoid saying it because it would just be a waste of my time and ruin friendships. And don't bring up any of the change the channel creators end up getting to controversy themselves because, well, what they did may be a little bit shady of them. That doesn't downplay what you people did up here. Or here's a thought. Don't just give in the, oh, he's jealous, you're a good guy, because that's just continuing to enable him. Because he deserves it, he needs to think for what he did and actually truly apologize and take responsibility and just freaking admit that he was wrong. That'll make him realize how the people who he left the channel felt hurt because of the actions of you and Mashad. I hope you're all happy, because it's about past time that you should all be put in your respect.